I'm Robert Kosey. I'm the publisher of Canadian Contractor, and I'm here with Dave Anderchuk. Dave Anderchuk is a contractor, or was a contractor?
Still am.
Still am. Still am a contractor in Saskatoon, and he's got a lot of good stories to tell about the experience he's had over the, how many years?
I've been self-employed for probably about 28 years now.
28 years? Okay.
Yeah.
And was it always as a contractor?
Yes.
Okay. So you started off small, started off big. Well, when did you start, and how did it?
I started off as a one-man show back in, and then we did a whole bunch of work. I had a business partner, for about 8 or 9 years, and we worked all over the province doing housing and commercial renovations. And then we separated our ways, and I started up my company called Java Construction.
So Java Construction starts in Saskatoon?
1990, 2000 in Saskatoon. When
2000.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I ran into you. I don't know how many years ago now, maybe 7, 8 years ago now, when we did a story on your company, and at that time you had about 27 employees.
Yes.
You're grossing about $3 million a year.
Yep.
Okay, so you're a pretty big size concern.
Yep.
And I think I remember the story we were talking about was goodwill, like you were giving back to the community or something, and you were doing some events and things like that with the community.
We've always, throughout the years, we've always donated. We've always sponsored so many different things, and then the industry changed.
Well, okay, so that which is a great segue. Now you're not that big. Now you have 2 part-time employees, and you've still got an office in downtown Saskatoon.
Yes.
That's a long way from $3 million gross to a couple of people in the office part-time and doing a few jobs. Tell me the story of then and now.
Well, back then, in the area that we're in, and we've had this conversation many times. So, what is the population? 350,000 people.
Yeah.
So we're not a big market province, as you can see, compared to where in Toronto.
But you were doing big jobs back then.
Yes. Yeah. A big rental back then. We used to do 4 and 5 additions a year on houses.
And then what would they average in terms of gross sales?
That's a tough one, because everything we did was designed by architects, and I can't remember the exact cost, but when you combine, say, 5 additions, and if they're 150,000, there's 750,000.
No, what I mean is the size of the jobs that you were doing. They were around 150, 250.
Yeah.
What would they top out at? I guess
the biggest one that I'd ever done was well over 400.
Okay.
Okay,
so
but I did one like that,
so
and all the rest.
Substantial renovations.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, well, tell me from then to now, what's...
Well, I guess from then to now was a competition.
Okay.
Okay, and part of it is in our market, okay, that we're in, is the housing market in Western Canada, as we know in Saskatoon. It peaked, and as it peaked, everybody started their own companies. And then all of a sudden it changed.
So when did it peak? Around what year?
It's probably about 6 years ago it peaked.
Well, that's only 2012.
Yeah.
What about the downturn? Well, you started in 2000. Then there was a big downturn in 2008.
Yes, it didn't affect me. Nothing ever affected me throughout the whole year until about the last 7 years. We always had challenges. You're always going to have staff challenges. You're always going to have trying to.
So you made it through the downturn just fine.
Yep.
Okay. Then what happens?
Well, and then all of a sudden the housing market peaks, and everybody becomes a contractor.
When you say, well, what do you mean by that? You mean everybody becomes a contractor?
Well, I guess everybody in the industry. So in the home building industry, and I can't speak for the home builders. Okay, so there's a lot of great home builders out there, but a lot of the home builders that had established companies, they did very well. Okay, but it's the other companies that started up to be home builders.
So you mean you were talking earlier about the sub-trades would actually start up and become GCs? Is that what
right now we have exterior finishers, we have stucco companies, we have plumbing companies, we have electricians. We have everybody in the renovation market.
So they're all deciding they're going to be GCs.
That's right.
And you're saying that's because the housing market shrank?
Yes.
And so they were looking for work, and they instead of just picking up electrical work, they went to the homeowner and said, well, I can change your tub as well.
I would imagine that's how they operated in that sense. So.
Okay, well, why would that affect you? I mean, I would assume that you're a big company, you're doing well, and you're serving a lot of customers, and so the increased competition, coming late, coming from guys who don't know what they're doing anyway, how come that did you some damage?
Pretty much what it did was that when you have staff, and you can imagine having 25 staff, turning millions every year, so your control of your staff is based on your management team that you put together.
Right.
Okay, so but when your management team is running their own companies and starting up their own businesses,
Okay, so
so
your management team are employees of your company,
Yes.
and they're doing work on the side.
yes,
Okay, how come you didn't catch that?
because my staff below me hid it.
Your staff
wouldn't-
hid it. You
yes.
hid the fact that your senior staff was actually doing work elsewhere.
Yes, and when I started into finding this out, and then I would question people,
Yeah.
and as you question people, so why didn't you give me a flag?
Well, yeah. Why didn't you let me know? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. What would they say?
They wouldn't give me an answer.
So.
So part of the problem is that's part of our management. We used to have our Monday morning management meetings, what
Yeah.
we were talking about,
Yeah.
and we would address all this
Right.
all the way through. So the minute, if we got into a situation with a homeowner, I want to be the first person, or if a subcontractor is not doing accordingly, we had set the system up for inspections every week so that at least we have something to go on. And you do that because you want to manage your company properly. But if it's your management team that's doing it, they're also the ones that are filling out the paperwork.
Okay, so you were really in a position where there was a lot of deception going on, where people just weren't telling you the truth about what was happening out in the
Exactly.
field, and even in your management team.
Yeah. So the minute you start questioning stuff like that, and this happens, it happens quite often. You know, I may not be the easiest person to work for, but I own a business. And when you start questioning this, and people walk in your door and they say, "Well, I hate to do this to you, but I'm going to quit." Okay, when are you quitting? Right now.
Yeah. So that's what actually happened.
Oh, yeah, it happened
They
to be
were-
lots.
And then the next day you would
They're
find
co-
out that you're the guy who just quit is running 3 jobs somewhere.
Yeah. So yeah, and it's the people that the staff would never say anything. That's a big factor.
Yeah. Do you think it is a consequence of the nature of the market that you're working in? I mean, that's a pretty, that's a tough story. And I mean, is it typical of the market that you're in, that
I
guys
think
are
it is.
working on the side? And
I think it is.
Yeah.
I really do.
yeah,
So I can't vouch for other companies,
sure.
but I know in the conversations that we've had and being a small market, and when you see the resumes
Yeah.
that come through, and they come through, well, it's in an area of 350,000. How many contractors?
Well, yeah, it is a small market.
That's
so
right,
you'd
yeah.
know everybody.
Well, you would think you would,
Yeah.
but the trouble is you don't know anybody.
Yeah, you were saying that a lot of contractors would be coming in from outside during the boom,
Yes,
and you wouldn't know them.
wouldn't have a clue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so-
Listen, we're going to get a little bit into the whole business of the price pressure
Yep.
that small markets like that can face, but we're just going to cut to commercial for a second. 40 years in the business, and this I know. Customers for a $250,000 renovation are a lot more demanding of quality and performance than the ones that hired you to assemble their $1,500 garden shed. That's why ICO's Dynasty shingles are the only shingles you'll be using on their projects. With their reinforced armor zone nailing area and dynamic curb appeal, ICO's Dynasty shingles are tough, durable, and the only shingle that can meet the demands of a quality client.
Man, these shingles are tough.
All right, we're back. We were talking about your market. I know that you had a problem internally with some trust issues, but at the same time, it sounds like in a market like yours, there was a lot of price pressure, and it was really tough to sell the soft values that, generally speaking, a lot of contractors sell: trust,
Yeah.
reliability, etc. Everything's about price. Is that fair to say in your market?
Getting a homeowner to read between their name and the bottom line where the dollar is allocated, getting them to read in between what they're getting is almost an impossible feat.
So you mean what you're saying is that they see the bottom line,
Yep.
but they don't really know what they're getting.
That's right.
Because they really don't want to face the fact that they're not getting everything they think.
Yeah, they look at the bottom line. 90% of them look at the bottom line.
Okay, and so what happens? What does that do?
You call and you say, okay, where are we at? Well, you know what, we'll get back to you. And when you walk in the door, most homeowners will tell you, you're the only person I'm talking to.
Right.
So you do all the designs. You don't do anything with architects or anything like that unless they're willing to pay for it up front.
Yeah.
Okay, but when you set all the templates for the products and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and trying to get an answer out of most homeowners how much they want to spend is impossible.
Sure, yeah, it's very tough
Yeah.
because they're afraid that you're trying to figure out how to get as much money
That's
out of
right.
them as possible
Yep.
without doing any work, kind of. They
Yep.
have that distrust.
That's right, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
But they also want your advice of what they can do to their homes. So when you set this all up, and you set a budget, or you may have budgets, you may have numbers in there for flooring, or you may have a kitchen budget, because you know why? Because a lot of times you can't get a price on a kitchen until the kitchen's actually designed.
Well, yes, and they have to make decisions about
That's
a lot
right.
of things.
So
Sure.
then you get so you set it all as a budget.
Yeah.
dealing
So
with
you
the
give them a
kitchen
budget, 50 grand.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and you allocate that, and we actually allocate that as part of our budget. Included in this price is $35,000 or $50,000 for the kitchen.
Right.
Okay, so
Okay.
and you do it as a change
That's
order.
standard procedure.
That's right, standard procedure.
Okay.
The homeowners don't look at that. They just look at the bottom line and say, "Oh, you're too expensive. We get somebody cheaper."
Yeah, but the other guy's doing the same thing, isn't he?
Yeah, don't know, because we never hear. That's the trouble, is you never know. If you were saying, "I want this to go out for tender," and this is part of why a change is required. So you have got somebody that's interested in, and if you wanted a reno and you said, "Okay, I want to spend $200,000."
Okay.
Okay, and we use that as an example because it's an even number. And if I said to you, "What do you want?" Well, we want you to redo our house. Okay, that's the answer you'll get.
Right. Well,
But then it's up to me to tell you, do you want a kitchen? Do you want new flooring? Do you want a new bathroom? Do you want to redo your main floor? Do you want windows?
that's part of the negotiation
That's
and
right.
the discussion.
That's right. And that's evident when you see people.
Yeah.
But the trouble is they don't know what they want. They want you to tell them what you can give them for $200,000.
Right. So then you could tell them, and then what happens?
Well, then they turn around and they say, "Well, you're too expensive. We get somebody else." Because they take your template.
Oh, so you give them a template.
Oh yeah, I give them a.
But isn't that the problem then? You don't give them the template then.
Well, the trouble is that they don't know what they're getting for the $200,000.
I know, but we can
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I don't give them
no,
the cost. I don't give them. I give them the windows. This is your window selection. This is your kitchen budget. I give them
Yeah.
all that stuff as part of a sub.
Yeah.
So if the flooring, if it's going to be a vinyl tile or a vinyl plank, or if it's carpet in the bedrooms, I give them the actual template.
Sure.
So,
Okay, yeah.
but there's no, and that comes right from the sub. So it's actually part of my contract that
Right.
they actually see what type of flooring I've got included in
Yeah.
this price.
Okay, but we all know that, I mean, there are, not for the choices, not for the style choices, but for the basic construction. I mean, prices can't vary that much. You know, studs are studs, drywall's drywall.
Exactly.
Right? So there's not going to be a whole lot of variation. So they're not going to get anything much better than your price, are they? Or
See, we don't know, and that's the trouble, is because we don't know what the other prices are coming in at.
yeah, sure.
So some of the stuff that we've talked about over the years, and people have said that when I go in and I work with homeowners on a project, and then they tell me, okay, let's say this project's going to be $175,000. Okay, we're going to do the main floor. So when you give them the template, and I've said for years that there's a lot of contractors out there, but there's also a lot of homeowners that do their own home renos. And I can't say for sure, but I've said for years that they're actually taking my price to go to the bank to get their financing and doing it themselves.
Doing it themselves. Okay, so, well, is it fair to say that in your market, I mean, I understand that the East Coast also has a similar market in that the homeowners are generally, they like to do a lot of work themselves.
Yep.
So you're not only competing against other GCs, and you're also competing against sub-trades that want to be GCs, you're competing against the homeowner.
Yes.
Okay, so is it fair to say that that sort of perfect storm of competition was what really gave you the hardest sort of time over the last 7 years or so?
The homeowners, everybody wants to be, TV's a wonderful thing, internet's a wonderful thing, but I won't lie to you, they're really not good for our industry.
Well, a lot of people believe that.
Yeah, so,
believe that,
you know,
sure.
and I'll give you a prime example where homeowners do a lot of their own stuff.
Yeah.
So I get a phone call last year of a guy that said, and we got recommended and to do their basement. So I go to meet the guy, and we're over at this home, and I'm walking around, and he's done all his framing.
Okay,
in
I'm
his
going to
basement.
I'm going to hold you right there. I
Okay.
love hold you in the middle of a story.
You know where I'm going with this one.
Well, I know, and we're going to come right back and hear the rest of the story. Are you a good builder? Do you want to build the best product you can? I'm Robert Cosi, 40 years, a contractor, writer, and publisher for the renovation and custom home building industry. ICO Dynasty is different. Testing has shown this fiberglass matte shingle with a special Armor Zone nailing area virtually eliminates pull-through and stands up longer under stress than conventional shingles. All right, we're back. Keep going.
Okay, so we were touching base a little bit, and I was going to tell you, I was going to mention a story about a guy that called me last year, and he had started to do his own basement renovation. He was actually a brand new home. There was nothing in the basement, so he asked me to come over and give him a price to finish it. So I went over there, and I met him for the first time, and I walked around the basement, and he had done all his framing. So visualize just a brand fairly new house with no framing, and he did all his own framing.
Okay. Well, how was it? Was it any good?
So I talked to him, and I said, "Did you take out a permit?" No. "No, do I need one?" I said, "Yeah." And I said, "Because we have to modify your framing." And he says, "Well, why?" So I started. And first of all, he had all his walls tight from the floor to ceiling, and they got to be that half, 3/4 of an inch down. Right. So when the floor floats, and his doorways were the wrong size. And then at all the end walls, he had actually no double studs or anything to stop that stud. Okay. So I said to him, "We have to modify this."
So it was bad.
It was bad. Yeah. And his wife looked at me and said, "Is there anything else wrong with our job?" And I said, "Well, if you want me to do this," I said, "I'm not going to do it unless we modify all this." Mm-hmm. "Well, I want a price to do all this, but I've got half the insulation here, and I have some plastic here, and I have my tub taps are here." And I said, "Well, you have to give me a list of what you got, and I can give a price." Mm-hmm. So he wanted a different style of floor, and I said, "You don't want to put this type of flooring in your basement because it's not meant for moist areas." Right. So I said, "We'll bring the flooring guy and we'll do some recommendations." And that's how you put these packages together. Mm-hmm. So I beat all the subs over there, and they kind of look at me. And I said,
"What do you mean you beat all the subs?"
I meet all the subs.
You meet?
Yeah, I meet all the subcontractors, the electricians, the drywallers, everybody.
This is going to be a big job.
Oh yeah, and I gave him a price to put it all together. Mm-hmm. And as we're speaking, I still have yet to find out how much insulation he had in that house that I wouldn't use. I just took the full amount and figured it all out again. Yeah. And I've never heard back from the guy. So I call him, and I leave him a message before Christmas. And he sends me an email. "Well, it's Christmas time. We'll get back to you in January." So I email him in January. Yeah. And he says, "Well, we're still thinking about it." Okay. Never heard a thing since then. Okay. So what happens in our industry is you exhaust yourself. There's a project that somebody wanted done right away. Let's put it together. Let's get the permits. All the drawings are done. Everything's already done. Let's put this project together so we can start. Never to hear from them again. Okay. That's what our industry's like. All right.
Okay. But now, like I'm going to be devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
What the hell are you doing all that work for without getting paid?
So how do you get paid? Because the next guy walks in the door and says, "I'm not going to charge you for doing this stuff."
Okay, so you're saying that again, because I know a lot of contractors who wouldn't even darken the guy's door unless you cut them a check.
That's right.
To do the kind of work that you're talking about.
Yes.
So I would put it down to the market that you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because what you're saying.
It's the market.
It's the market.
Yeah.
Okay. Is the market still down in Saskatoon right now, or is it picking up, or where? Is it
actually, the market's down. When you talk to some contractors, and then naturally being in this long, lots of people, and you talk to a lot of them, and it's very, very down. Okay, and why is it down? Is it down because of the market, or is it down because of the competition?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I would say. It's down because of the competition.
Because of the competition.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, but in a free market, if there isn't enough work to do, the people that came in there to do all the work when they were busy leave, and then you get a balance again. Is that not happening?
I don't think they are. You know what? There's a lot of one-man shows. Okay, well, we know that everybody at one time was a one-man show. Sure. And it's a change of the guard. I'm the old school, and they're the young guys.
Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, I can see that.
Okay.
So, what is the difference between the old school and the young school?
The young school now is everything's done off a cell phone.
Yeah.
The old school, everything's done off your knowledge in your head.
Okay, so you've got the knowledge in the head, they've got the cell phones. Why are they winning out over the old school?
Because they don't understand that when you start a business, you have to look at, and if you're a one-man show, okay, and what does it take to be a one-man show? You can buy a company for $1,000 if you want to go a limited company from a lawyer. Okay, if you just want to do it as an independent, as a private individual that's running. So at the end of the year, they're willing to make their wage. Mm.
Okay.
That's their vision. I made this job here. I'm working all summer. I'm getting my $25 an hour.
That's not a business, though.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, that's not a business.
But a homeowner doesn't look at it that way. They look at the bottom line.
See, we're back to the pressure on price. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't believe that the market is so tight and the homeowners are so, I mean, maybe it's just the culture of the province. I've heard Saskatchewan is a penny pinching province. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, don't write me letters. But
Yeah,
I mean,
that's right.
I mean,
Yeah.
do you think that that's really what it comes down to?
Well, I think if that's a good question.
Okay.
Your clientele's changed. Okay, part of what I've noticed over the years is that there's no one-on-one. Everything's got to be done now by email, by text message.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And there's no one-on-one. But if you give a homeowner your cell number, homeowners feel they can contact you at 10 o'clock at night because there's a nail popping out of their casing. So that's the trouble. And as a small market, when you get home at 7 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night, whatever time you get home, and you're doing a reno in your house and you want to see what's been done for that day, they don't understand the complexity of what happened for that 8 hours in that house.
Right.
All they see is what isn't done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they feel they can send you a text or an email. And emails are fine. That's why I love emails. You
Yeah.
know, before they just call you and say, okay, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do this. Well, I know we're not even close to being done yet.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So listen, 7 years ago you were doing $3 million.
Yep.
Now we're at a different level. You're still doing some renovations.
Very small. Yep.
Not a whole lot, but
Yep.
you're doing some consulting as well.
Yes.
Okay. Tell me about why the transition and where you are injecting yourself into the process now and why that's valuable.
Part of the consulting that I've been doing, and I've been doing it over time, quite a few years, and what it is there's always a problem on a job site. Okay, the problem, and I, as I had staff, I always did this. The problem's there. Tell me what the solution is. That's the way I was brought up in the industry. I won't lie to you. I worked for some very good companies, and part of the industry, part of what they were telling me was, that problem's already there. When we come to the job site, we want you to tell us what the solution is. So you're thinking about what the solution is. This is how I was brought up in the industry.
Okay, what you're saying is you're working for a company, you're an employee of the company, you're
Yes.
the site supervisor
Yep.
or whatever, you see a problem. When you go back to management and to address the problem, they want you also to come back with a solution.
Thank you.
I got you. Okay.
That's where the industry changes, because people don't know how to come back with that solution if they've never had to fix that solution, never had to rectify a problem.
It's experience,
Yes.
really, that
Yep.
really is you're bringing to the table.
Yep.
Okay. And then how does that work? Where are you, like I say, where are you injecting yourself into the process?
So if there's when homeowners have an issue, okay, when contractors have an issue, and you see this all the time, is you hear about the bad stories about contractors, okay? And believe me when I say this, I've been doing this my whole life. There's also as many bad stories about homeowners.
Sure. Well, and that's one of the challenges we've always
Yes.
had about Mike Holmes.
Yes.
For him, it's always the contractors that are bad.
That's
but
right.
As you say, we've met some pretty bad homeowners.
And you know what? And part of the homeowner problem is that is that their mind is made up that this is the contractor's fault. So what I've been doing over time, and I've been asked quite a few times, and I've done it, is where I just sit down, I just review the file. And then I give my honest opinion of what they should do.
Who pays you, the homeowner or the contractor?
Sometimes the contractor pays me, and sometimes the homeowner pays me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's kind of difficult to be objective then. Somebody's paying you.
Yeah, but you have to give me a non-biased opinion. So if a contractor's paying me and if I tell them you screwed up, you have to understand that you screwed up.
Have you ever had a difficulty collecting when you found that you have to tell the guy that's paying you your money that they were wrong?
That's a great question. About 15 years ago, there was a lady that had trouble with her windows. Brand new windows. And this is actually, and this gives you an idea how long I've been doing this. And I just never, never took it to that extent. And this lady was talking about her windows. And the window manufacturer, I won't lie to you, I dealt with them too. So she called me for my non-biased opinion.
Okay.
And I told her it's going to be this much money. So we went and we actually, and they're sliders. So visualize this, sliders, and we actually tested every window. We sprayed, just soft, and we watched the water come inside.
Okay.
Okay, so when it didn't come in, we identified it, and I got the process all set up for her legal case.
Yeah.
So we're doing this one window, and as the track on the bottom, it's filling up with water. We go outside in the weep holes, no water's coming out, but the water's going down.
Okay.
And I'm dealing with the window manufacturer because I've actually dealt with them quite a bit. And I said, make this lady happy, make this lady happy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I explained all this to them because they were actually business people that I worked with.
Right.
And they just stood their ground.
So what was the problem? I mean, the water was not coming out of the weepers. What was going on?
We pulled the casing off,
Yeah.
and we pulled the insulation out. It's saturated, and all the water was running through the PVC wherever on the bottom track and going down inside our walls.
Well, yeah. And so it's the window guy's fault, right?
That's right. Pretty simple. This is very, very simple, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So we get all the pictures taken. We've identified. I make it a report. It goes to court, and they threw it out of court because I'm not a window expert.
Because you're not a window expert.
I'm not an expert in the window industry, so they threw it out of court. So the lady refused to pay her bill. And I said, you don't have to be a window expert or an expert in the industry to see that water's flowing inside the walls.
But that, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, they threw it out of court because
Yep.
of it? 'Cause I mean, I wonder whether or not if she had been the one to say, hey, there's water running in my
Yep.
walls, that would have been better because
Yep.
she was the homeowner. And they're more inclined to support the homeowner.
Yep.
So you as an expert, when you injected yourself into the process, you suddenly allowed them opportunity to say, well, here's my excuse, you're not a window expert.
That's right.
Wow.
But she ended up winning her case over time, I guess, but she never
she?
paid the bill.
Oh, she never paid. Oh, well,
Yeah. So, you know,
That's a problem.
window manufacturers, okay, let's talk about products.
Yeah.
Is there ever a manufacturer's product failure?
Never.
Thank you.
Never. No, of course not.
So part of the problem is in our industry, and I won't speak for all of Canada, but is that when you do an install of a product, if there's ever something wrong with that product, the window manufacturer, or sorry, I keep referring back to the window manufacturer, but the manufacturer of that product is going to say it's an install problem.
Of course. Of course.
Okay? And that's right. So, and then they come back and they say, well, he was never certified as a correct installer for our product.
Right. And that's a pretty easy bet that the guy who put him in probably wasn't certified. Because putting a window in is not that hard.
That's right. So even if it's an exterior project that's failed,
Yeah.
the first thing I ask is, are you certified to install their product?
Yeah.
Because you know you don't stand a chance. Because the manufacturer is going to turn around and say, well,
Yeah. So these are all the kinds of the experiences that you've had that you want to bring to the table
Yes.
now. Tell me some of the things that you are being hired for now as a consultant.
I have one right now that actually we just finished putting it together, and it was a failure. I won't go into the whole details, but which I can't. But it was just a small basement exterior wall failure, and it was designed by an engineer and the contractor, and the engineer gave the options and his recommendations, and then they drew up the drawings. And to make a long story short on this one, his recommendations, the contractor priced it all out as per recommendations, but when it came to doing the work, he never did it as per the engineer's recommendations. But the engineer signed off saying it was okay.
The engineer signed up? Oh,
yes.
Okay, well that's a problem for the engineer then.
So I deal with the lawyers and give them my personal thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. You have to take the stand sometimes when you're doing this? No? Okay.
No.
Well, so now how many years of experience? 27, 30 years of experience in this business?
Well, I've been doing it since I grew up in Southern Ontario, as you know. I've been doing construction since 1976.
76, okay.
Yeah, so really I got into it in 1980.
That's about the same as me, actually.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you see a lot. You see a lot of changes in the industry since 1980. When I moved out west and took on my apprenticeship, you see construction's always been the same though. It's 4 walls and a roof.
That's what I've heard.
It's
Things have changed, but look at this.
It's how you get there.
The level of demand has skyrocketed in terms of the quality of the build. Though I remember we were still using black paper and 10 test on the outside, 2x4 walls, R12.
Yep.
I mean, who does that? Like nobody does that. I hope nobody does that anymore.
When you renovate those homes now, and you see this, and
I know,
and you're laughing, and your staffer look at you, going, "What is this?"
I know, it's brutal. But so the demands are way up there. And as a matter of fact, we're doing a series now called Road to Net Zero, and we're talking about how builders are going to have to ramp up the quality of their work to get to that net zero build level in 12 years when the National Building Code is intending to require everything to be built at net zero.
That's right.
You guys ready in Saskatoon to make that happen?
I would imagine in the new housing industry, they're going to be ready for it. In the renovation industry, they won't be ready for it because most of the people in it don't have a clue what you just said.
We're trying to change that. That's because I don't read Canadian. Okay, so what do we do? Like, how can you impact that industry to improve the quality of the work being done, given all the things you've said about it, as a consultant and going forward? What's going to happen?
Well, I think going forward, if I was in the position, if you wanted me to go look at a project, okay, number one is you have to respect what I'm going to tell you, whether it's and I'm going to get into. You have to understand the wood frame construction industry, okay, from back in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, all the way through. And when you understand that, then you can also understand what you can actually do to that home. So we get into exterior envelope upgrades, okay? This is a huge factor. I got new windows, I got new siding, okay? So we have all these siding companies that are doing exterior upgrades, okay? And they're doing all this stuff, which is great. You know what? This is part of the economy of Canada. It's a big factor. But did they ever tell the homeowner they need an HVAC system because they're changing the
because they're tightening up the home.
That's right.
Or is that what you mean?
Yeah,
like a heat exchanger.
Yeah, the heat exchangers.
Yeah.
Yeah, air exchangers.
Okay, so
you know why? Because most of the people putting siding in that house have no idea what a heat exchanger and what an air exchanger is.
Of course not, and they're not supposed to know. I mean, homeowners don't have that kind of education. Or let me put it this way: homeowners can learn about that, but it takes a lot. And they've got busy lives.
Yes.
So the industry needs to be the one that's educating the homeowner. Fair enough?
That's right. But it's up to the individual that's actually putting the siding that got hired to do all that stuff to bring that to their attention.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so why can't you get back into the GC business in a big way and be the guy that does that?
Probably my age. Yeah. So why wouldn't you do it? Because that all boils back to the bottom line.
Okay, you just can't make money doing it.
No, you're not going to make money. I'd have to downscale, which I'm more than prepared to do. I have no problem doing that. Yeah. But you can't spend 12 months out of the year looking at jobs that you might get.
Is one of the problems that there's not enough regulation of the industry in Saskatchewan? Because I mean, we're regulated like to the nines here in Ontario, and I don't know whether that helps or not. But tell me a little bit about the regulation in Saskatchewan and what happens.
There is no regulation.
Okay, that's what I was thinking that might be the case. So tell me about that.
Yeah, you know what, and that's part of the stuff that I've talked about. There is no regulatory body that oversees our industry. The new home building, and I understand that, permits. Yeah. You can do a renovation, you'll fly under the radar 7 days a week.
Cash work?
No, it doesn't have to be cash.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because nobody knows if I'm working inside a house in Saskatoon and I can knock every wall out of that, and the city wouldn't know I'm there unless I pulled out a permit.
Right, and you were saying earlier that it's a homeowner that has to pull a permit.
Well, and I'm sure at the end result is the homeowner has to be held accountable. So, and that's why you see a lot of privates. When we get all the permit reports and you see all the contractors, and whether they're members of the Home Builders Association or whether or not, it's all outlined. Right. And then you got privates, and it's just lists of privates.
Yeah. Okay.
And that tells me that the homeowner's doing their own rentals.
Right. Okay. You are God of Saskatchewan, okay? Now, you're the mayor of a town in Saskatchewan now, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Okay, we're going to move you up. You're the God of Saskatchewan. You're looking down on the province and you're saying, man, that renovation system is a mess down there. People are just cutthroating each other and not being fair to each other in terms of being able to get things done properly. What would you do?
What would I do? I would set up some kind of a process where you actually have to have some sort of government regulations that you have to have a certification process.
Okay, so certification would be important.
And the reason is because when you think about how many millions of dollars your provincial government funds to this industry. Your provincial government here in Ontario.
I don't know if they fund us. They take money out of our pockets. But I don't know if they fund us.
Rumor has it, we see that on the news. You know that, eh?
But, we cry like babies about our taxes here. So
you'll have your housing authorities. You'll have all the stuff that's all federally funded all the way through. Yeah. So and that's part of the industry. That's part of the renovation industry.
Sure.
So it's all government owned. So Saskatchewan being a small $1 million plus people or 1.2 million or whatever it is, a lot of the industry is funded through channels on the provincial government. And if you're into a home doing, which is fine because there's nothing wrong with people being entrepreneurs, okay? But when they get out of that channel and then they start working on your house, there is nobody says that they're doing it right or wrong.
Okay, so it's really up to the relationship between the
yes.
the customer and the contractor.
Yeah. When a homeowner calls you and says, well, I got this big problem on my house, and I go look at it, and I say, yeah, you got a big sag in your floor. What'd they do? Oh, they took the telepost out of the basement. Okay. Well, you like
Did
stories.
That actually happen?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And I go down there, and I'm looking at this, and I'm going, oh. And I just shake my head.
They took the post out of the basement.
And I said, so what did they do? Where's the drawings?
And where's the post?
An engineer, you know, actually you have to permit this and then it's got to be certified by an engineer.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't do any of that. The contractor said, we don't need any of this stuff. This is what you're up against.
Yeah.
Okay, so I laughed and I said, we pulled the string line to see how much it sagged. And then I said, well, this is what we have to do and my cost is going to be this. So I lined up the engineer and we brought the engineer over and she talked with the engineer. And I said to her, and I said, okay, so you got to sign this paperwork and do this. And she looked at me and she says, no, the contractor's coming back to fix it. I said, you still need a permit. You still need an engineer. No, he said he's going to fix it. So that's mindset.
Wow. Well, you know, I was thinking of moving to Saskatoon, but now you've changed my mind. You know, I was going to move to
Lyle.
Yeah, I was going to move there for the weather, but now I don't think I will.
That's funny. So anyways, yeah, you know what? And the industry's always been like that. In the experience I got, it's always been the same. It'll never change.
Yeah.
It's a change of the guard.
What's the name of your consulting company? How can people get a hold of you?
Rental Consultant by Dave Anderchek. You can call me in my office. We have a Facebook page. We've never done anything on a website yet because I'm not a firm believer yet that a website's going to be a requirement for something like this.
You know what's interesting? We're discovering in the media business that nobody goes to our website. Like nobody actually types in our website and goes there. Everything that they see that we deliver is through our newsletter or through some other system like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. The website's really a depository of stories, but they don't actually physically go to the website and say, "Oh, what am I going to see here?"
See, I think for something I'm going to get into, which people and I've done it quite a bit, is just if they got to hold me through my email at rentalconsultantda@hotmail.com.
Okay.
Okay, and I would respond.
Yeah.
And the reason that I would sooner do it that way is because, as you know, you can't do issues on job sites if there's a problem or if there's something like that. You can't do it based on an email. You have to have an actual open conversation.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And
your consultancy is focused primarily on site issues, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And if I feel an engineer needs to be brought in, I bring them in. If there's manufacturers, if I bring them in, stuff like that. So
we're gonna run your email across the bottom of the screen here, so the people if they want to get a hold of you, they can.
Yeah.
You working outside of Saskatchewan? Is there if somebody flies you into Calgary to help you out?
Oh yeah, you know what? That's the stuff you discuss on the phone. Part of the conversation is, but you know, in fairness to that, there's going to be associated costs that are going to come all the way through all this too. So, and you want more information brought to you before. That's a key. Is I'm not going to go to northern Saskatchewan or southern Saskatchewan until I actually have the paperwork sent to me so I can actually do my research before I get there. Because you don't want to walk in the door. A lot of it's reading. A lot of it's just based on, so you're building it in your mind. That's a key for this. Yeah. You got to follow up and you get there and you say, okay, we're doing this, but this is the, bang, bang, bang. You're building the reno in your mind.
Yeah.
And then you put all the paperwork together. So,
thank you, Dave, for coming in and telling us all those great stories. If you want to get a hold of Dave, please contact him at the email below for his consulting services. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. And Dave, we're going to see you again.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, it was good.